Good afternoon, if it's afternoon where you are. Otherwise, good morning. This is Ellen Mayara with Event Solutions Management. Oh, all those things always pop up just when you don't want them to. Um, Thank you for joining me for a CMP Information Session. Glad to have you on board. Um, we're going to start. I'm expecting maybe a few more people, but we'll start and they can join us late. That's fine. I like to start on time. So typically we have three types of people who attend this information session. The first are folks who want to learn more about how to qualify for the CMP program, generally so that they can plan their career development in that direction. Second group of people is typically a group of folks who want to learn more about how to apply to the program, generally because they're about to fill out the application. And the third set are people who are preparing to take the exam. So if you fit into one of those categories, you're in the right place. And stay with me through the entire session so that we get to the topics that you're most interested in. The next thing that I'd like to tell you is that when the session's over, I'm going to send you a handout with all the dates and all of the information about web links and study materials, everything that we go over today. So most importantly, please just don't worry about taking notes, right? Take part in the session, I guess, is more important to me. So our agenda today will be to do some quick online class housekeeping. We'll talk about the history of the CMP designation, benefits of certification, and then we'll get into the heart of the matter. The CMP process, how to prepare for the exam, with an eye towards by the end of the day that each one of you will have your own CMP action plan. You're going to have an idea about how to proceed. Okay, and throughout we'll do discussion and questions, so it's important that you are familiar with the GoToMeeting attendee interface so that you know how to interact with me. Right now on the left hand side of your screen, right, you're probably seeing my slides. And on the right hand side of the screen is a control panel. Now sometimes that control panel has been contracted down. If you click those double arrows, it will open back up, right? And as we can see, this has a whole lot of good information, including audio, and it looks as though most of you are hearing me successfully. Hopefully that's true. You can change between dialing in or using the microphone and speakers on your computer. Either is fine. The next part of the control panel that I want you to be familiar with is the most important part. It's the chat pane, right? This is where you can begin to interact with me and with each other. By typing into the chat pane, you can type questions to me. And likewise, you can ask me to open your microphone. Right now I have everybody muted, otherwise we hear a whole lot of background information. It can be really distracting. But if you want me to, just say, hey Ellen, can you open my microphone, and I can do that for you. Okay? I think that's it. Oh no, the last thing is if you want to, under the view menu, if you unclick this little check next to auto hide the control panel, then your control panel will stay open, and I think that makes it a little easier, right? Because it's always there for you. And you can also see what other people are saying while you're doing that, which is important because I do want the session to be as interactive as possible. So please go ahead and ask questions as I'm speaking, right? Don't hesitate. Don't hold them to the end. Don't worry about interrupting me. Likewise, if you have something to add to what I'm saying, I like that too. Okay, so don't be shy with that. So we're going to start by doing introductions. Now we can all see each other's names, so you don't have to say, "Hi, I'm Ellen." But what you would be helpful to us is, where are you located? That's always interesting. And also, what is it that you're doing with your career? Are you a supplier? Are you a planner? Are you currently employed? Are you looking for work, right? As long you might be networking with somebody who might be able to clue you in on a job. Um, uh, and most importantly, why are you interested in earning your CMP? What's what's propelling you toward the CMP right now? And while you're doing that, so you can type that into the chat window, and don't be shy, because while you're doing that, I'll introduce myself. Okay, my name's Ellen Mayara. I did earn my CMP in 2005. And currently I own my own company called Event Solutions Management, located here in Tampa, Florida. I have had a whole lot of different experiences in the meetings industry, and I keep on coming back. And so back in 2004, when I was attending my information session, I really felt like my career needed something. I felt like I had plateaued. And so um, I attended an information session thinking, "Oh, this will be interesting. I don't know. I don't, know if this is what I want. I don't know if I believe that the CMP is going to be the right thing." And clearly, I kind of went into it really half-heartedly. And since then, right, I have done a complete turnaround. Um, because really, I gained so much more than I ever thought I would. Um, First and foremost, I learned a lot, no doubt. Okay, and I built a great network of friends within this program. I experienced an increase in earning. Okay, and most importantly, the word confidence, but also validation comes to mind, um, which is really important because, in 2004, I was working for someone else, I was doing something different. It gave me the confidence to go ahead and open my own business and start this chapter of my life. And without it, I don't know if that would be possible. So let's take a look at what you guys said. Thank you for being so open, guys. I love to see who you are. Lisa's from Seattle, an event planner, looking to open up new job opportunities, and that will absolutely happen to you, Lisa, after I achieved my CMP. And granted, the job market was extremely different, and the economy was extremely different at that time. But somebody approached me, and to change jobs, just by adding the CMP to my, in those days, monster document, right? My monster profile. People were like approaching me to take jobs. So it absolutely opens up more opportunities. Carol from Gainesville, Florida, yay, Florida, is environmental training administrator and planner. So you're a planner. And Sarah is a meeting manager. Northeast Human Resources Associated, located in Boston. I hope that you're not freezing. Okay, it's the right time in your career. Good. That's really important to know when it's the right time. Jenny is a corporate event and meeting planner for MPI Research in Matawan, looking to add to your career by gaining the certification. Matawan, Michigan. Oop, wait, we got more. Cool. Denise, outside of Boston. Ooh, you guys can talk to one another. Independent. Good. Been in industry 20 years, never had enough time for the CMP, hopefully this year. Yeah, time is an issue. We'll talk about that. Okay, and Latoya from Chicago. Corporate meeting and events certification will validate your work and open more opportunities and connections. You're absolutely right about all that. So thank you for sharing that with me and with each other. Gives me a really good idea about who's in the group and now how to, right, talk about what we're about to talk about. So let's get started, right? The organization that owns and administers the CMP program, right, is the Convention Industry Council. It's an association for other associations. In other words, its members aren't um, individual people. Rather, its members are other meetings industry organizations. And currently there are 34 member organizations. So it's likely that some of the organizations that you are members of or are familiar with are members of the Convention Industry Council. Is anybody a member of a meetings organization? Shout out the names of those organizations that you're familiar with, right? Okay, SGMP, Society of Government Meeting Professionals, MPI, Meeting Professionals International, PCMA, Professional Convention Management Association. This is always where I'm like testing myself. Right? GMC, Green Meeting Council? Is that what GMC is, Carol? Green Meetings Industry Council. Okay, it was close. Um, all of those and many more recognize the CMP as the ultimate, right, certification within the industry. So, it speaks to the validity of the certification. So the Convention Industry Council's goals are to promote and develop programs that promote professionalism within the industry. And as I said earlier, they own the Certified Meeting Professional certification. So they're the ones. Okay. Now the designation began in 1985, and it does stand for Certified Meeting Professional. A lot of people think that P stands for planner, but it does stand for professional. Okay, and there are currently about 14,000 CMPs internationally. Okay, about a third of whom are suppliers. So actually, I think we were all planners on this call. But a third are typically suppliers. So those are your sales managers and your convention service folks and your destination management companies and folks who work for CVBs and DMOs, right? Production companies, all of those folks are also can also earn a CMP. Any questions? Remember, just shout them out or add to what I'm saying, right? Makes it a much more interesting thing for everybody. Okay, so the goals of the CMP program are very straightforward. Okay, the first is that the Convention Industry Council has identified a body of knowledge necessary to understand to be successful in the program. And that's really important because as we think about things and as we think about exams you've taken in your past, it's likely that you took an exam based on information that was discussed in a class. And so this would probably be one of the first times that you're taking an exam, maybe your driver's exam. Right? There wasn't a class. But this is one of the times when you're going to take an exam in which there's no class. And so you walk around going, gee, I wonder what they're going to test me on. So it was important for the CIC to develop that identify that body of knowledge. And they call that body of knowledge the CMP International Standards. And we're going to come back to that later in the session. So just remember that. The next step in their goals was to establish a level of knowledge. How much of that knowledge do we need in order to be considered certified? Okay, that seems reasonable, right? Through that process, what they're hoping is to stimulate the advancement in art and science of meeting management, right? That stands to reason. They're going to provide many unique networking opportunities, this being one of the first, right? But there are many, including some CMP-only programs that happen annually. Okay. Because you've dedicated yourself to improvement and professional development, your value as practitioners in this industry, right, will absolutely increase. And as a result, industry standards, practices, and ethics are going to be raised. So it's fairly straightforward program what their goals are. Okay. Now we've talked a lot about the benefits of certification. Okay, we've already talked about a lot of the things that you mentioned. A lot of you talked about increased knowledge, professional development, personal achievement, all of those things. I mentioned, right, because it's rude to say that you want to earn more money, I suppose, in right. Maybe it's just a given. Everybody wants to earn more money. Um, uh, PCMA does an annual salary survey. And the 2013 salary survey said that CMPs earn $10,500 more annually than their non-CMP counterparts. So certainly that is absolutely a benefit, and likewise it should be something of a motivation, right? Um, we've talked about increased knowledge. We haven't really talked about so much about increased credibility, right? Think about when you get an email, maybe you're making a first contact with a vendor, and you see that they have a CMP behind their name. Right away, right, there's this idea that um, uh, you know that you're working with a professional at least, right? Somebody who's been in the industry. Okay, and then there's this idea of global recognition that the certification and really the CIC has made a very strong push in the last few years to make this a global certification. It is recognized internationally, and I train many people all over the world to earn their CMP, and so. All over Asia. I've taught in the Middle East. I've taught folks in Australia, all over Europe, South America, and clearly here in North America. So I just haven't gotten to Africa yet. I would like to do that. Um, so some other things I like to call these kind of the vanity benefits. I don't mean that in a derogatory way, right? We should use, once we earn it, we should use the CMP designation. Right? And I talked about CMP only programs. Well, now you're invited to them, right? As well as getting listed in the CMP directory. Any questions for me thus far? Because we're just about to jump into the real core of the matter, right? The CMP process. Okay, so this is a 4-step process. The first thing that we do is apply to the program. Okay, once we apply and are accepted, we hear back from the Convention Industry Council, and we have 1 year in which to sit for the CMP exam. Okay, the exam is offered 4 times a year over a 10-day period. So in reality, you have 40 days within the year in which to take the exam. And again, it's 10 days every quarter. Okay. So your next step would be to say, this is the exam I'm going to take. I'm going to take the exam in the spring. I'm going to take the exam in the summer. I'll take it in the fall, right? And to register for that exam. So that now you're making a commitment to an absolute time frame. Okay, the next step would be to choose the location, date, and time for the exam. So this is very different from the way that we used to be able to take the exam. I'm sure some of you are scratching your heads because in the past, the exam was offered 2 days annually, and it was always a Saturday. If you couldn't make that exam, then you were out of luck. You couldn't take the exam at all. Okay, and so that's why the Convention Industry Council has made some real efforts to make this a much more flexible program for everybody. Now, again, I said you have 10 days quarterly in which to choose the date. You get to actually choose the location. The exam is offered now in secure testing facilities, on a computer, and there are 470 of them globally. So it's likely that there is one right in your town or city, right, close by to you. It used to be that everybody had to also, aside from that the exam was only offered 2 days during the year, we also had to all travel to various different cities in which to take the exam. That's no longer the case. And of course, the fourth step is going to be to sit for the exam. So what we're going to do now is talk about each one of these steps. Okay? Remember, ask questions. So we said the first step is to apply for the program. And the application, again, unlike past application, the application now is very straightforward. What I would advise you to do is to read the current CMP handbook, and the current one is dated 2013. They have not yet updated it for the new year. And I will send you a link to a PDF that's free to download off the Convention Industry Council website. So you'll be able to do that. But I advise to read that because most of the directions and instructions on how to fill out the application are in the handbook. So some people sit down and fill out the application and don't ever read the instructions, and then they're surprised when their results come back and they've not been accepted into the program. So clearly I don't want that to happen to you. So the whole point of this application is for you to demonstrate your eligibility to sit for the exam. Okay, and there are two sections on the application. One is professional experience, and one is continuing education and internships. And in each section, there's one requirement for you to meet, but they give you many ways in which to meet the requirement. Okay, so we're going to go over each section, and we'll talk about how you might meet the requirement for the section. So the first section we're going to talk about is professional experience. And as I said, you have one requirement that you need to meet, but they've given you a couple of ways to meet that requirement. Now, most of us fit into the option 1 category, and that is having worked 3 years in full-time employment in a decision-making role in the meetings industry. Okay? Because this is a bit of a bigger group, I'll go on and talk about option 2. If you don't have those 36 months, but you do have a degree in hospitality, right, then you could have 2 years of full-time employment in the meetings industry in a role in which you make decisions. Okay, so there is a third option, but never have I experienced anybody who fits into a full-time instructor in an educational institution. That never comes up, I have to tell you, for me. But there may be other people out there where it does come up for. So either we fit into option 1 or option 2, yes? Now if you don't fit into either of those options, right, now you know what you're working toward. Okay? Okay, so let's look at the application itself. This is just one block on the page. I've blown it up so that we can look at it very carefully. I think there are 3 or 4 on the page. If for some reason you need more, right, there are supplemental pages, and I'm going to send you a link for that. Okay, so very straightforward, right? You put your job title, the name of the company that you're working for, what that company does, your employment dates, and then you convert it to a number of months. And then all you need is a detailed job description. Now remember, as you're filling this out, just because you need 3 years or 36 months, right, you shouldn't stop at 36 months. Remember what I said, that you're demonstrating your eligibility. Okay, so if you have more than 36 months, treat this like you would a job application and continue adding the jobs below that meet the requirement of being meeting industry jobs, right? So that you can really, you're saying, I've been involved in this industry for a while, right? I'm ready. Okay, so any questions about section 1? Okay, they'll come up. I know they will. Oh, I forgot about this. Okay, this other part of section 1 is that they're going to ask you to attach a current resume. Okay, which will also show all of your work experience. I'm going to send you a link to a sample resume. It's likely that the resume that you have is already more detailed than the one that they're providing as a sample, but it will just give you the peace of mind that your resume will suffice. Right, so you can take a look at that. Lisa asks about the entire application. Is it to be handwritten or can it be filled out via a computer? I'm getting to that, Lisa. So bear with me. We got one more section and of the application, and then we'll talk about that. But good question. Okay, the second section is about internships and continuing education. And again, you only need to meet one requirement, but they give you 2 options. Okay. Most of us fit into the option 2, which is having 25 clock hours of continuing education in the past 5 years that relates to the meetings industry. Okay. Now, if you don't have that, right, maybe you have an industry internship. And that is usually fewer people. I will also say that. So if you don't have option 2, oh, I'm great with option 1, but I don't have option 2, don't, stick with me. I'm going to show you a really easy way to earn those 25 clock hours. Okay, so before we're done today, I'm going to step you through how to go about doing that. Anybody in option 1er? If you're an option 1 person, say yes. Otherwise, I'm going to skip a slide because I no use to going over it if we're okay. I'm skipping it. Okay, so just like with section 1, right? I have just cut one piece of the puzzle out of the application. There are many of these blocks on the page, and likely because it's 25 clock hours, you may need more supplemental pages, right, to add to this page. But this is very straightforward with the one exception of the second line. And of course I'm going to walk you through that. So the first line is, what was the session that you took? The second session, the second line we'll skip over, right? The third is, who provided it? Where did you take it? What were the dates and how many clock hours? Okay, so if you took a course in managing a budget, right? That would be the title. You'd put in the program sponsor, whoever, maybe it was Meeting Professionals International, where you took it, Reno. Don't I have some of my Reno friends here? And the date, right? And the number of clock hours. I have some good news for you. Today's session counts as 1 clock hour. So now all of you only need 24 clock hours. Okay, so for this session, you would say CMP Information Session. We'll skip over line 2. I'll get there, I promise. The program sponsor is Event Solutions Management. I'm in Tampa, Florida, but you could also say on the internet, today's date, and you are earning 1 clock hour for today's session. Okay. Now, once we have all of that figured out, right, we also need to have proof that we attended the sessions that we're claiming on the application. Okay, and proof of attendance comes in a lot of different forms. It could be an invoice, a canceled check, a diploma, a certificate of deposit, or perhaps you have the handout that was given to you while you were in attendance, or the program. You went to a conference and you have the program with the course description, right? Whatever it may be. Today, once we're done, I'm going to send you an email that's going to say, thank you for attending today's session, right? It'll be time and date stamped, and that will be your proof from me. So you will need that, and that does take, I know, a little bit of research to go back and figure all of that out. Now let's go back to that line 2 issue. What the Convention Industry Council wants you to do is that they want to know that the continuing education relates to the meetings industry. And as we talked about that body of knowledge way back early when we were talking about CMP program goals, right? And I said the body of knowledge is called the CMP International Standards. And what they want you to do on the application is to compare your continuing education to the CMP International Standards. So let's take a look at those standards for a second. Again, I'm going to send you a link to this when we're all done, but this is what it looks like. It's a 63-page PDF. Okay, so you can access it. You can actually save it to your computer if you want. I wouldn't recommend printing it out just because I like to be a little bit more friendly. So this is a table of contents, and as we look at this, we start to notice that it looks like an outline, right? And fundamentally, that's what it is. What the Convention Industry Council has done is, on a regular basis, they meet with current CMPs from all over the world, and they conduct a jobs assessment, essentially saying to CMPs, what information do you need to know in order to be successful at your job? And over a couple of days, this outline is developed. Okay, so for the purposes of your application, right, on that second line, they're asking you, if you took this class, what part of the CMP International Standards does that class relate to? Okay, and so the two examples I gave you, the first one I said was managing a budget. Right, and we can see under Domain D, Financial Management, that there it is, managing a budget. On the application, all you would need to do is put in Domain D, Financial Management, and you're good to go. Now, I also said that you're going to earn an hour of time for today's session, and today's session falls under Domain J, Professionalism. Okay? So that's as far as it goes for the application. Now, like I said, this is a 63-page document. So I'm going to scroll down to the first page so you can have an idea about what this is. Well, it certainly helps us with our application because they're requiring us to use it as a tool for the application. It really is the document that defines what you need to know on the exam, and it goes really into detail about that. Okay, so much so that we know that strategic planning, being the first domain, is going to be 16% of your exam, and in fact that translates to 24 questions on the exam. Okay, and we can see that domains are broken up into skills and sub-skills. And from skill 1, we can see that there will be 6 to 8 questions on the exam. So if you understand all of the concepts in this document, you can be successful on the exam. Okay? Any questions about the international standards? Because now I'm going to go back to our previously scheduled presentation. Okay. So now to answer Lisa's question. Things to do on your application. The application is a PDF. Okay, and it's one that you can type into. However, it's not one that you can save unless you have some advanced software on your computer. So my advice is to print it out. Even if you could save it, my advice would be to do this. And make sure you have all the information that you're going to need. After all, especially when you're starting to figure out dates, when did I take that class? When was that meeting that I attended? Right? When was that WEC? Right? To go back and figure out all of that. Takes some time and some research. So likely you're not going to be able to just type right into it and finish the application. My advice is to print it out, print the application out, handwrite everything that you know that you need, figure out what's missing, fill in the blanks, and then when you're sure you've got it all together, sit down and you can type right into that PDF and print it out. Okay, then it's very easy. Attach all of your documentation, including your resume, right? Make a copy of everything before sending, and then know that you have to send by post. It can't be faxed or emailed or sent in any fabulous electronic manner. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind when it comes to deadlines. Pardon me, I just had to sneeze. Uh, um, okay, so speaking of deadlines, again, I'm going to send all of these to you. Um, the first deadline to know is that the next application deadline is February 3rd. Now that's for the May exam. Okay, so if you're not interested in the May exam, remember all of these deadlines and all of the exams happen on a quarterly basis. I'm going to give you the next set of deadlines just because that's what's up and coming. If you go to my website, all the other deadlines are all there. Okay. So if you get your application in by February 3rd, I think they say in about 2 weeks you hear. Okay. And you'll hear by email. Okay. And they will say, congratulations, you're accepted into the program. You can choose when you'd like to take the exam. Now, you're not required to take the May exam. Remember, I said you have a whole year in which to take the exam. Okay, and they will email you instructions on how to commit to the exam that you want to commit to. Okay, we'll skip over order your study materials. Right now, we're going to come back to that. Um, Now, the study group that I lead is going to start January 21st. That's really like next week, right? Next Tuesday. We meet 8 p.m. Eastern, so I advise everybody to adjust for their own time zone. Okay, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The next deadline, again, for the May exam will be to register. But between February 20th and March 14th, you will have the opportunity to choose which exam period you're going to commit to. Okay, typically the next one will be the May exam, right? Once you've done this, then you'll receive information how to choose your exam location, day at time. Now, at this same point, if you speak English as a second language, or if you have a documented learning disability, this is when you can request an accommodation, or in the case of speaking English as a second language, you can request an extra half hour of exam time. Okay? And you would also need to submit documentation about each of those situations. Okay? So we said now we've committed to a time frame that we're going to take the exam. The next step is to schedule your exam. So for the May exam, you have from March 25th through May 7th to choose where and when you're going to take that exam. Okay, and exam dates are going to be May 8th through 17th of 2014, and again in August, and again in November. Okay, it just keeps going, it never ends. Any questions about deadlines? Because we're moving on to study materials. Okay, we're at a funny juncture right now with study materials. The Convention Industry Council publishes a manual for the CMP. Okay, that manual, let's start again. The new manual, the 9th edition of the manual, is due out at the end of February. It was actually due out this past fall, but it didn't get released. So we're expecting it to be due out at the end of February now. And it will be offered in both a printed version and an ebook version, which is a huge advantage. What the Convention Industry Council is saying is that the material will be the same. It's just been reordered to match the CMP International Standards. Okay, with that being said, a lot of people need to start studying. And so people are kind of at a loss, what should I do? And this is really what I've been advising folks to do. I've been advising folks to buy all their study materials with the exception of the CIC manual. Okay. Now, in the past, the Convention Industry Manual was actually two manuals. It was a manual, which was the 8th edition, and then an international manual, which was the 1st edition. And what they've done with the new manuals, combine them into one. So what I'm advising folks to do is, if you know somebody who's a current CMP and worked with the 8th edition manual, borrow their manual. Don't spend money on this manual. Wait for the new manual to come out and make the investment in that manual. Okay? And try to borrow this manual. And likely you know people in the industry, or you could just through social media. I have folks who have eBayed manuals very inexpensively. So that might also be a way to go. But I would not spend money on this manual. Wait for February. Wait for the 9th edition to come out. Okay? That being said, there are 3 other items that you can study from while we're waiting for the new manual. One is a glossary, which is available free for anybody to use, and I will send you the link to that. Okay, it's the Convention Industry's APEX, or Accepted Practices Exchange Glossary. It's great stuff, right? Have you ever been in a situation where somebody has used a term and you've been like, what the heck does that mean? Well, this will be the thing that will help you with that, okay? The next, and this is a real manual that you can purchase because it's not being updated right now, is called it's published by PCMA, right? And it's called Professional Meeting Management: Comprehensive Strategies for Meetings, Convention, and Events. And that's the 5th edition. Okay, so you can absolutely go ahead and purchase that now and begin studying with that. And then the last item is a free download. I'm going to send you a link to it. It's offered by the International Association of Exhibit Management, or International Association of Exhibit and Events. I know they've changed their name. I can't remember which is the new one. And it's their guidelines for display rules and regulations. It's a free download. I'll send you all of that information. So here's the main thing about study materials. If you're borrowing the study materials, make sure you're borrowing and working out of the correct editions. Okay? So again, it's the 5th for the PCMA. If you're borrowing the CIC old materials, it would be the 8th edition for the manual and the 1st edition for the international manual. Okay, and I'll send you the link to the Convention Industry Council so that you can purchase what you can purchase now if you choose to do so. Okay, I certainly recommend starting working with the PCMA manual until the CIC manual becomes available. Any questions about study materials? Okay. The CMP exam, right? After all, everybody's dying to know about this. Okay, it's a 3.5-hour exam. And the questions on the exam are multiple choice. There are 165 of them. There are no fill in the blank or true or false questions, no essays, okay? It's all 4 possible answers, A, B, C, or D. Okay, and they're all plausible answers. You'll never get all of the above, none of the above, A and C, B and D. You'll never get those kind of options. There'll be 4 well thought out possible options. The questions themselves are situational. They're not rote. Okay, so what does that mean? It means it's not enough to study the materials. You've got to also have the experience and the skill to understand the situation and then apply the knowledge appropriately. Okay, and that's kind of what makes the exam difficult. Okay, they're testing you not only on knowledge but on function. Okay, and as I said earlier, it's offered in a secure testing facility. There are 470 of them globally, and you will be taking the exam on a computer. Okay. The exam is comprised of a new selection from the CMP item bank. In CMP speak, the word item equals question. So it's a question bank. It's a database of thousands upon thousands of questions that have been written by CMPs at one of those CMP only events called the CMP Conclave. Okay. Once your exam results are reported as either a pass or a fail, okay, and you do get an unofficial result at the time that you take the exam. Okay, then about 6 to 8 weeks later, you get the actual results or confirmed or official word. You get a certificate, right, at that point. So each question undergoes a very stringent review process. As I said, CMPs write the questions, we review the questions, okay? Then there's a board of directors that reviews everything, an exam committee, and an independent testing agency, okay? And in between all of that, right, there is a whole bunch of other editing that goes on with the questions, including if you go to a CMP Conclave, you have the option to take a mock exam. It doesn't count toward anything, and it's totally anonymous. But it gives during that time, it gives the CIC the ability to both edit questions further and also test whether the questions are successful or not. And so questions are always being reviewed, and updated and rewritten and changed. Okay, I see a question came in or a comment. Let's see. This is from Jennifer. Jennifer says, I just purchased books yesterday. Oy, and they should put something on their website. The new idea would be released. You ordered it directly off the CIC site. Yeah, I would tell them to hold off on the 8th edition and the international and tell them just to send you the PCMA manual. And tell them you just heard that the manual is going to be changing in February, and that, right? I would absolutely do that. You can even call them. I'm going to send you in their email information as well as a phone number. Yeah, they should have something on the website that says this is coming. Okay, so did I do all that? Yeah, I guess I did all that. Okay, so one of the things that you'll realize when you're involved with the Convention Industry Council is that they keep statistics on everything. And one of the things that they'll ask you when you're done with your exam is how you prepared for the exam. So they have statistics going back to 1985, and those statistics show that those folks who prepare for the exam by being a part of a CMP study group do better on the exam than those who do not. Okay, so if you take anything away from today, what you should take away is, I need to be a part of a CMP study group. Now, I'm not the greatest joiner in the world, okay? And you guys don't know me, but that's not, like, I'm not a big joiner. And so, for me, it was like, ugh, should I do this, shouldn't I do this? And I will tell you, if I hadn't done it, I wouldn't have been successful on the exam. So it kept me honest. Okay, it kept me on track, and that really is a good thing about the CMP study group. Now, the CMP study group that I lead has very distinct goals. The first is to study all the content that's in the CMP International Standards. Second is, I think it's really important to understand how the exam is written. You know, when you gamble, right? When you play poker, right? You're sitting around a table. They say that somebody has a tell, right? And you know that based on what they're doing, whether they have a good hand or a bad hand, right? They call that a tell. I think the questions on the exam have a tell also. So I think it's really important how to understand how those questions are written, because then you can easily find the thing that tells you this is the right answer. Okay, so we talk about that a lot. The other is to develop confidence on exam day. I don't want that to, like, being unconfident to be the thing that throws somebody off on exam day. Now, the study group that I lead uses 3 online tools. We're using one today, right? We use GoToMeeting. We utilize an online classroom environment, right? And that's actually a picture of the classroom environment. In the environment, we have all kinds of resources, and we have a forum so we can post questions to each other. I have clearly assignments are in there, and a reading schedule, and various samples of things are in there, and examples of things that people have requested through the years. So that's all available. We also use an online quiz program. Because I think it's important not only to practice taking questions and dissecting questions, but also do that online, because ultimately that's what you're going to be doing for the exam. Likely few of us have taken an exam online, right? Except those of you who are really young. Maybe you've done it. Okay, so the CMP study group is 15 sessions, and each session is 2 hours. Remember I said if you don't have the 25 continuing education hours, I'm going to show you a way that you can earn them. And this is how you can earn them. 15 sessions at 2 hours is 30 hours of continuing education that relate directly back to the CMP International Standards. Okay, I've had more than 20 folks who have attended the study group, and I do take attendance, so they actually do have to attend the study group, go to all 15 sessions, then they apply. The next step would be for them to apply for the exam. And then, because once you're a member of the study group, you're always a member of the study group. You don't have to pay to be a member again. They go through the study group a second time, and then they sit for their exam. Okay, and those folks have been extremely successful. So we know that the Convention Industry Council accepts the study group as continuing education on your application, and we also know that folks who do this do very well on the exam. Okay, so the first session for the study group is next Tuesday, January 21st. We said at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay, so that's a Tuesday. After that, it'll move to Mondays until we get to review weeks, in which we do a Monday, Wednesday. In fact, that's what I'm doing this week with my current group. I advise folks to purchase their materials so that they can begin studying, right? There are assignments due the first session. Okay, so each session we review quiz questions, we discuss material for the week, right, and we study how questions are assembled. So the way it breaks it down is we do 12 weeks about content. Okay, and each week you have a reading assignment of about 120 pages. I advise very strongly to work on vocabulary note cards and to take a weekly practice quiz. And then the last 3 sessions, really I should change that, it's really 3 sessions, are dictated by what the study group wants and needs. Right now we have this long list going on our forum about the things that the current group wants me to review with them. Okay. Within that time, there's also worksheets and practice sheets for math problems. Everybody does receive 4 practice tests, a midterm and 3 finals, each 165 questions, again, to build stamina and develop good test-taking habits for the exam. Okay, I should stress that the questions that are on the quizzes and the practice tests are questions that have been written by folks in the study groups. Okay, they're not from the CMP item bank. Okay. So the cost for the CMP study group is $300 for 30 hours of training. We do have a 98% success rate. The Convention Industry Council says between 70 and 75% of the people who take the exam are successful on the exam. So that's beating the industry average by quite some. The other advantages to this study group is because it's an internet-based study group, you can access the session and classrooms from anywhere, right? Even if you're traveling, as long as you have the internet. Okay, a phone, a tablet, a computer. Okay, you can access from anywhere. If you're unable to make the session, all sessions are recorded. So even if you miss one, you can make it up with me. Um, and and then if it's beyond, also, beyond the fact that maybe you missed the session, there's also this idea that during review weeks you may want to review something. You can re-listen to something that I've already gone over. Okay, so I think it's a big advantage. We're at the end of the presentation, so I did promise you, certainly ask your, think about your questions, okay, but we did say that we would have a CMP action plan for you. So if you're at the point where you don't meet the requirements on the application, maybe one, maybe both, right? Now your action plan really is about working toward meeting those requirements. So typically it's gaining the 3 years of full-time employment, right? And having the 25 hours of continuing education. Okay, if you have the first one but not the second one, right? You can join the study group. Okay, and that will fulfill the second requirement that you're missing. If you have both requirements, really what your job now to do is to read the CMP handbook, right? To download and fill out the application, okay? To borrow or purchase the study materials, and to register for the study material. I'm sorry, to register for the study group. I'm looking at Sarah's question. Am I familiar with the CMP series articles in the PCMA Convene magazines that you can read for credit? I am indeed familiar with it. I actually really like that magazine. Of all the industry magazines, it's one of my favorites. Denise, you mentioned joining the study group to gain the requirements, but did I understand you correctly that once you are accepted, you have to join a study group again? No, you don't. Like I said, it's free. If you're using the study group to meet your requirements for continuing education on the application, you can do that, go through the study group, apply, and then never see me again. That's fine. But as an option, I give folks the ability, without additional payment, without joining, paying again, really, I give them the option to go through the group again if they choose to. It's not a requirement. Study group is never a requirement. It's highly suggested, given that it gives you an advantage on the exam. So just to give you an idea, I have folks who did this and who went through the study group, applied, and now some went through the group again. Others are just coming back for the review. Right? We're adults. It's adult education. You get to choose what you want and don't want. No, it's not. Nobody pays for the CMP study group twice. Only once. I've had people come through 3 times, to let you know, and not have to pay again. The whole thing is that you should be ready to take the exam, and they wanted to wait. They didn't feel like they were ready. Once they felt like they were ready, they took the exam. And I encourage that wholeheartedly. I think that's the most important thing, right? Don't feel pressured to take the exam. You have a whole year, right? Don't feel pressured to take it if you're not ready. Any other questions for me? Now I've put all of my contact information and I'm going to send it to you as well. There's a reason, right? Don't be shy about calling me or emailing me. Frankly, sometimes I think it's easier if you call, right? Typically you have a question for me and then I have to ask you questions, and by the time we're done, it's 2 days before you actually get your answer, right? And we could have a quick phone call and you would have the answer. So don't be afraid to call me. What study materials are needed? Can I hold off on borrowing the CIC manual until February, or do I need it for the study group? It's, again, this is adult education, which means you get to choose. I can only advise you. What I am advising folks to do at this point is to try and borrow the CIC 8th edition manual and the International manual until the manual comes out in February. Absolutely, you should purchase the PCMA manual. Okay? And the other two items are things that are free to download off the internet. So, no need for you to worry about that. I'm going to send you those links. What's the pass-fail criteria of the test? How often do you have to take the test to stay up to date? Once you take the exam and you stay current, okay, in other words, you renew on time, you never have to take the exam again. Okay, the renewal period is 5 years, okay, and the requirement at renewal is yet another 25 hours of continuing education. So you have to continually keep your continuing education up. But other than that, you don't have to take the exam, which is why it's really important to stay current. Because you don't want to have to take the exam again. The pass-fail criteria on the test is about a 20-minute conversation. So, and it's one that I do with the study group, Denise. It's not really one that is easily described here. If you would like, once we're all done, I'm happy to go through it with you. But I don't want to keep everybody listening to that if they're not interested in it. So, what's my difference between my study group and the PCMA training? Me. um, I am slightly familiar with the PCMA training. I am not. I didn't use it. It wasn't available when I was studying. I think I get a lot of people who tried the PCMA training and it didn't work for them. I think the big issue is it's completely it's completely uh, CMP candidate driven. In other words, you don't have somebody like me leading you through the training. You're given a set of steps and a set of things to review, and you have to do that yourself. And if you have a question in the meantime, you don't have anybody to go to. Okay, I think it's also more expensive. The other thing about the PCMA training that I'm very much opposed to is that the questions the practice questions that you get in the PCMA training are not structured like exam questions, right? Sometimes they're fill in the blank, sometimes they're essay questions, sometimes they're open-ended questions, and so I don't think that's training you and preparing you for the exam. And so I'm not a big fan of the training. Again, I didn't use it. I have seen it. I've been privy to it. The PCMA themselves showed it to me. I'm not a big fan of it. But needless to say, that's what I'm going to say, right? Lisa. I have been an event planner since 2004. Do I still need the continuing education prior to applying? Absolutely. Everybody needs to meet one requirement in Section 1 and one requirement in Section 2. So absolutely you meet the requirement in Section 1, but without that 25 hours of continuing education or an internship for Section 2, you don't meet the requirements to take the exam. Any other questions? Now, in about 10 minutes, when we're all done, I'm going to send you an email. It's got all of my contact information. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me so that you can uh, get any other further questions answered. There are times when I'll say, you know what, I don't know the answer to that, or frankly, I can't answer that. Ethically, I can't answer that. You'll have to contact the Convention Industry Council, and I know that you'll understand that, which is why sometimes, right, I'm providing you with that information as well, how to reach out to them. And they're not scary people either, right? Hopefully, they're not scary people. Hopefully, I'm not scary. Um, so please reach out to them as well and ask them specifically, like when it comes to, will this qualify with will this class meet the necessary, those kind of questions. They're much more qualified to answer that question than I am. Um, my pleasure, Jennifer. I'm happy to do it, and certainly give me a call if anything comes up. Anything else from anyone? Class moves to Monday. What's the 21st? Well, hold on, let me look. On the 27th, it'll be on a Monday. And then on a Monday every night, every week until we get to review sessions. Right? There are some weeks that I had, like during Passover and Easter. I'm taking a break. All right, which gives you guys an extra few weeks to do the work that you need to do. Okay, folks, I really thank you for your time and appreciate your input also and your good questions. So I wish you luck in your career development, and if there's anything I can do for you in the future, please let me know. Have a good day.